evil Russians, evil Putin. Israel's doing it right now in Gaza, and not a damn word from anybody. Why? Hypocrisy. Hypocrisy. You talked about the Israeli soldiers saying things. I'll tell you what, I've been doing military stuff my entire life. There ain't confidence in those Israeli soldiers' eyes. I've looked at the videos of the pep talks. They are scared to death. First of all, most of them are reservists. And that means that they did their 3 years and they got out and they thought they were going to live a nice life doing IT and making money, getting their little man buns and going around the world being cool. And now they're back in uniform, being told they're going to carry out one of the most difficult military operations imaginable, large-scale urban combat, and they don't have the training. They don't have the skill set. They don't have the equipment. They don't know what they're doing. They don't have confidence in their leadership. Their leadership doesn't have confidence in their leadership. This is a scared military, very frightened military. The Israeli special forces have gotten slapped around. Sayeret Matkal, the elite commando unit, the Delta Force of Israel, has suffered by some estimates, 20% casualties in the initial response. The Flotilla 13, the Navy SEALs of Israel, slapped around. Shaldag, their air commandos, slapped around. You name it, they've been slapped around. It's not going well for Israel. And Hamas is losing a lot of guys too, but they always expected to lose a lot of guys. Hamas is dug in. Israel's dropping bombs on Gaza designed to collapse buried structures that are 60 feet below the ground. Hamas is down to 85 to 100 feet. They're riding this attack out. They've been planning this for years. They're not starving. They have food. They're not thirsty. They have water. They don't have, electricity. They had generators put in, backup after backup after backup. They are ready for an 85 to 90-day war. And they know that Israel is going to respond by bombing the civilians. And by bombing the civilians, the international community is going to turn away against Israel. That's what's going on right now. The community is turning on Israel, not because they have a deep understanding of what Israel is and how wrong that is for the Middle East, but because they're just tired of seeing dead babies pile up.
I mean, Scott, you mentioned October 7th, and you said, for the average person to really understand this situation, they have to go back decades. I understand that. I do get a lot of questions from people that have been watching this program and also have emailed me prior to the show. They wanted to ask a question. One was, did Hamas expect this type of retaliation against this attack? And also, the understanding was, could they have done something different than send thousands of rockets over to Israel? I mean, no one condemns this type of carnage, but it's, for this audience to understand this, is it Hamas that, went first? Israel's coming in response, and are they trying to bring these soldiers into Gaza? Is this a strategic military play in the long run? As you said, this is years in the organization. Are they actually pulling these or assuming that Israel is going to come into Gaza and have them in one spot? And we have a Bakhmut situation.
Yeah, look, again, what I say is we can't truly understand the situation until you go back to the beginning and understand what the Israelis did to the Palestinians and the resentment and all that stuff. But let's start with what's going on. The last big conflict between Israel and Hamas was in 2021. The Guardian of the Walls was the name of the operation. And what Israel did in 2021 is they sought to contain Gaza. I mean, they found some tunnels, they collapsed some tunnels, but from that they built a wall. The Israelis call the 2021 conflict the first artificial intelligence war, because what Israel did is they just decided to turn Gaza into a giant focal point of collection. They have satellites, drones, they have CCT, closed circuit television all over the place. And every meter of Gaza is estimated to be imaged once every 10 minutes. And all this data goes into a supercomputer. They have giant SIGINT collection platforms that are picking up every cell phone, every SMS text, every computer, anything digital coming out of there. They're collecting that. They're collecting off of cables. They're collecting all the data. It all goes into a supercomputer. Now, in the old days, I mean, look, I was an intelligence officer. We did that. I'd order up collection. I'd build up an intelligence collection plan. I'd say, what do I need to know? Break it down into essential elements of information. And then I'd break it down into necessary, points of collection. Then I'd assign an asset to the question, get the data, seek the answer, put it together, come up with an assessment about what's going to happen. But what happens is if you collect so much data, you overwhelm the human. Now, I don't believe that because I'm somebody who actually knows how to go through data quickly and pick out what the important stuff is. But invariably what happens is a conversation misses by and somebody picks it up and says, Ritter, you didn't get this conversation. I go, nope, I was too busy looking at the 1,000 other conversations I was paying attention to. But they don't want that to go through. So the supercomputer comes in and they build these algorithms that take the human out of it. It's supposed to assist me. It's like Chat GPT, college kids are out there writing their term papers by throwing terms out there. And no, you didn't really write a term paper. Computer did it. And it sucks as a paper because you don't know why computer said. And the computer's only as good as the data, how it's programmed to assess the data. That's the problem. They built these giant algorithms that are spitting out analysis about Hamas capabilities. And the Israelis were looking at it and the politicians went, the computer's saying everything's okay. And then they'd say, well, based upon this, we're going to implement policies that are designed to mollify the Palestinians, to compel Hamas to stop being a resistance organization and become instead a governance organization, to spend more time worrying about how to govern Gaza than to resist us. And then we're going to make peace with the world. So we're going to build this huge high-tech wall around Gaza. Remember, it's a prison. So this high-tech wall that's designed to actually have sensors detecting underneath so that Hamas can't tunnel underneath it. Has sensors all over the place. So if anybody moves near the fence, you don't need snipers anymore. They have these towers with these automatic cannons, and you got some donut-eating Israeli in a thing going, getting the sensor, bing, bing, moving on sector 3. Call up the camera, get the thing in, mouse it over, pull the trigger, pop, 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 pop. You kill 15 guys. Hey, you're done. That was a great day. They thinned out the military. They sent them all to the West Bank to deal with suppression of the Palestinians there. And they implemented policy. For instance, 20,000 work permits were given to the Gazans. It's like a work release program in the prison. Hey, you guys are tired of not having a job in the prison we created? Here's 20,000 work permits. You can go work over here at a minimum wage, but now, see, we're allowing you to bring money back in so you can buy food and your life's getting good. You're going to forget that you're in prison. You're just going to think everything's great. And now, because you're happy, Hamas has to govern you, and that's what we want. And it's called the conception. And so the Israeli leadership bought into the conception that Hamas would never attack them because Israel had created this artificial world that the prisoners were going to be happy forever. Hamas said no. So what Hamas did is, this is deliberate. Hamas dug in, got their rockets, built everything up, all the while fooling the Israeli. Remember, the artificial intelligence, Hamas knows this. Want to know why they know it? Because the Israelis are bragging about it. In 2022, you go Google artificial intelligence war. The Israelis they're holding conferences. This is how we did the first artificial intelligence war. This is what we're doing. This is the equipment we're buying. These are the algorithms we've come up with and all that. Hamas is going, wow, thank you very much. So, hey guys, we know they're listening to the cell phones. So we're going to turn off all our cell phones that are chatting. But we got to keep the cell phones going, because one of the things an intelligence officer is looking for is, you're listening to cell phone, suddenly no cell phone. You're, whoa, something's going on. Something different has happened. Hamas can't do that. So, hey, here's our teams. Here's your script. Every day I need you to make following phone calls at the following time, say the following things, boom, 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 boom. Keep it going. But then Hamas was doing other things too. They were actually doing all this training. I knew about the training months ago, because I'm looking at the story saying Hamas just did a paraglide exercise. You're going, why are they doing that? Why are the Hamas fighters practicing to go up and paraglide? Because they're trying to go over the wall. Now, as an intelligence analyst, see, I don't have a supercomputer. I'm just going, Hamas is coming over the wall, guys. Then I'm looking at other footage of them running through towns, combat villages they built up. And I'm looking at the combat villages, goes, that looks an awful lot like a kibbutz in this military outpost. Hey guys, they're coming over the wall to attack the kibbutzes in the military. I'm not a supercomputer. I'm just an intelligence analyst. I don't need all that fancy algorithm crap. I'm just a professional looking at going, they're coming over the wall. Therefore, we need to double down on our defenses. But nope, I'm not allowed to think anymore. I've been replaced by a supercomputer who has politicians who think they know best. Hamas gamed the system. They went in there. The whole purpose of this was to do so much horrific damage to the Israelis that they have no choice but to come in. And Hamas set this trap. Hamas is desperate for them to come into Gaza because two things will happen when they come into Gaza. Hamas will crush them, will slaughter them. The Israelis won't know what happened. They're going to come into an urban. Ask the Russians how difficult the fighting was in Mariupol. Ask the units that went in there fast and what happened to them. Ask the Russians how they had to pull back, retrain, and they begin a very slow, laborious process that cost them a lot of men because urban warfare is very dangerous. The Russians haven't talked about their casualties in Mariupol, very heavy casualties. The Ukrainians suffered more, but still, the idea that it was cheap fighting, no, Bakhmut, we're talking 70 to 80,000 dead Ukrainians, 20 to 30,000 dead Russians. And Bakhmut is tiny. You can fit 6 Bakhmuts into Gaza or more. So, this is what the Hamas is ready. They've been preparing for this. They know exactly what they want, and they know what the Israelis are going to do because they've been following the Israelis. The Israelis have no secrets. Hamas knew everything. Understand, they had the maps of every single facility. They knew the home addresses of every Israeli general. They knew how everything could come in. So Hamas planned this, and they also know that by getting Israel to execute the Dahiyah formula, that the world will turn against Israel, and most importantly, from Hamas's standpoint, Hezbollah will have to come in, Iran will have to come in, because they can't stay silent. They can stay silent while Hamas gets pummeled. They can't stay silent while the Palestinian people get pummeled, because they have built their credibility on defense of Al-Aqsa Mosque, on the defense of a Palestinian homeland. So they can't be silent while the Palestinian people are slaughtered. This is a trap prepared by Hamas. It's one of the most clever traps ever set. It's the most predictable trap ever set. But the one thing that's more predictable than Hamas is setting this trap is how the Israelis are going to respond. They are responding exactly the way Hamas wants them to respond.
Scott, I have a little bit more interest in this Gaza area. Now, we're talking about Hamas that was planning this, and clearly the supercomputer was asleep or didn't really
No. The supercomputer wasn't asleep. Supercomputers doing what supercomputers do. Doing what artificial intelligence is a fundamental flaw. There's no better supercomputer in the world than the one between this earlobe and this earlobe. You train this thing to work, you don't need artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence is the lazy man's way out of life. Artificial intelligence sucks. It's good to have computers to do rapid calculations, but final decisions must be made by humans. And the Israelis made the mistake of saying, we're going to let the computer split out, use an algorithm that's going to spit out analysis. It was not asleep. It's not going to work when you have the ghost in the machine. And Hamas was inside that computer's algorithm.
Clearly. Now, Hamas, you mentioned the underground network that is going on. Does the Israelis have, some information on how those run, or has that just recently, that network been put in the last few years that will give Hamas the upper hand? Or, I mean, how is all that working? I mean, we're talking a very complex system that has, really fooled the entire country on how it managed to pull off, such an attack. I mean, is this something that has been building up for years? Do these networks go deep down where missiles can't get them? I mean, this is questions that I have and the audience has. I mean, how on earth is this going to play out?
Again, we have to respect. Again, you don't have to support Hamas, but you damn well better respect them. All right, these are guys that wiped out Israeli intelligence. I mean, they just gamed them like children. So that means that when you think, then you say, okay, well, if Hamas was this good here, we have to assume that they're this good. Hamas studies the weapons that Israel has. Israel has been procuring from the United States so-called bunker busting bombs. And one of the reasons why they procured them is because they have some hard targets in Iran. that they may have to take out, but they also have hard targets against Hezbollah. Bunkers buried under. Hezbollah has turned southern Lebanon into a honeycomb of underground. Israel has no clue what's about to happen to them if they think they're going to go after. Because what Hamas has under Gaza, Hezbollah has 20 times over. The North Koreans are the best people in the world at tunneling. They've been doing that on the DMZ forever. North Koreans came in and helped Iran move its government underground in case of war. I'm giving you guys some intelligence, all you people out there doing targeting. Understand that you can blow up an Iranian building above ground and you're not going to kill anybody because they're all going to be below ground because they've all have that underground. And the North Koreans did that. When I went to Iran back in 2007, guy said, if you want to see something interesting, just go to the square and hang out for an hour. And I did. And North Koreans walking all over the place. What are they doing in our? They're teaching them to go underground. And that same technology that Iran took to Hezbollah. Hezbollah went underground in southern Lebanon, and Iran schooled the Hamas people on how to do deep tunneling. Hamas has been digging tunnels forever. That's how they get in and out of the prison. I mean, standard prison escape. Watch The Great Escape. They dig the tunnel. But the tunnels that Hamas originally dug were very shallow, and they could be collapsed. If Israel dropped a bomb on top, the tunnels would collapse. Everybody inside dies. They went deeper, but they did it using technology, digging technologies that could be detected seismically by the Israelis. So the Israelis were able to map out. Plus, if you don't do it right, you can use ground penetrating radar techniques. I'm not giving away anything here. It's standard. And you can map out anomalies in the subsurface structures that give you an idea of where these structures are. And so Israel proved this in 2014 and in 2020, 2021. They were pretty successful at taking out some of the Hamas tunnel network. So Hamas has gone deep. And by going deep, and if you use the proper techniques, by going deep, the bombs that Israel has, and Hamas knows the bomb. They know what its penetration capabilities are. They know what happens when it explodes, the size. They can do the calculations of the seismic shock wave, and then they can build tunnel structures designed to survive that. So they go deep enough with the proper reinforcements and the digging techniques that minimize the seismic, the vibrations and the noise that can be detected by the Israelis, and have the patience to do it slowly and do it right. Hamas picked this time because they're ready, because they've gone totally underground. They have tunnels, a tunnel network right now the Israelis haven't mapped out. The Israelis, that's why the Israelis are scared, because they don't know what's there. In the past, they thought they knew. Even when they went in 2014, they had a good idea, but they didn't. They went in thinking, okay, we got this tunnel, we found this tunnel, we found this one. But we didn't get this one. Hamas pops up behind us, bam, kills a bunch of guys, goes back underground. Now we find that tunnel, we blow it up, but then the other one pops up. There were tunnels that they didn't even know about. Right now, there's an entire network. You would literally have to drop thermonuclear weapons on Gaza to collapse the Hamas tunnel structure. And that isn't an option yet. But Hamas is ready for this. They've gone underground. These are smart people. Again, you don't have to agree with them. You can condemn them. But the moment you start calling them animals and you treat them with disrespect and you say they're not smart, they're going to kill you, because they've been spending the last several years planning this operation to every detail. Again, understand this. When they give their guys documents, Hamas knew when they sent these guys out there that many of them weren't coming home. But they give them documents that are designed to be captured by the Israelis. Do you really think that Hamas has a written document that says go to an elementary school and kill children, that was an execution order? Well, it didn't happen. But the guy that got killed with that document got captured, and the Israelis are going, oh, they were going to kill children. They were going to kill children. We have the document. We have to go into Gaza. You just did what Hamas wanted you to do. You just did what Hamas wanted you to do. That's how bad the Israelis are, because they don't think anymore. Back when I worked with the Israelis, and I worked with them extensively from 1994 to 1998, they had instituted what they called the Doubting Thomas. The Doubting Thomas position was created after the Yom Kippur War of 1973, where the Israelis, just like they did here, had a conception that Egypt would never attack because everything's going great diplomatically, and they ignored all the intelligence information, and the Egyptians attacked. So Now they create this doubting Thomas, and his job, every piece of information that's going up to higher command has to go through his desk, and he looks at every assumption, everything that's done, and he challenges it. That's his job, just to challenge. You say this. Why do you say this? What's your source? Have you considered other sources? Come back to me when you have. And he throws it back in their face. And the Israeli products that were produced in the 1990s were pretty good. To give you an example, Israel in 1993 viewed Saddam Hussein as an irrational character. And therefore, the Israeli policy was to take him out. They actually trained the Sayeret Matkal, those commandos I talked about, to assassinate Saddam. And they carried out, they actually put reconnaissance